Turmoil in Pakistan-administered Kashmir. A banned group has been protesting against a court ruling that upheld legislative representation for Kashmiri refugees living in Pakistan. What are the political implications of the demonstrations? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the programme. I'm Imran Khan. It's called the Joint Awami Action Committee and it's being accused of fueling protests in Pakistan-administered Kashmir. The group has been demonstrating against a law that sets aside legislative seats for refugees from Indian-administered Kashmir who live in Pakistan. They say it gives them disproportionate influence in the divided region. But the government says any change would require constitutional reform. The issue has long been a subject of political debate in Pakistan-administered Kashmir. But how will its government deal with tensions rising once again? And could the protests force a change to the controversial representation law? We'll discuss this with our guests in a moment. But first, this report from Imran.
At least 11 people killed and dozens injured in Rawalakot in Pakistan-administered Kashmir. Police say supporters of the Joint Awami Action Committee shot at security forces and surrounded a hospital, while authorities say they fired to, quote, restore law and order. The JAAC tells a different story. The state has begun a massacre of our people in Rawalakot, one leader posted online. The violence began after the region's Supreme Court ruled 12 legislative seats reserved for Kashmiri refugees who live in Pakistan are protected by the constitution. They include people displaced from India-administered Kashmir after partition in 1947. The JAAC objects to the ruling, saying refugees have disproportionate influence. They are campaigning for more autonomy and representation in the local assembly. The JAAC was formed in 2023 to protest rising costs from bread to electricity and the struggles of the working people compared with the political elite. The government recently banned the group under anti-terrorism laws, but they say they're undeterred.
This decision has neither weakened the committee's resolve nor diminished public support. The people of Kashmir remain more determined than ever to pursue their legitimate demands.
All of this comes ahead of a planned mass protest and shutdown, once again demanding an increase in political rights. Although the JAAC is not fighting for total independence from Pakistan, but an increase in the basic standard of living and democracy. Imran, Al Jazeera for Inside Story.
Now let's bring in our guest. Iqbal Tarana is a senior leader of the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz. She joins us from Islamabad. Sahar Khan is non-resident fellow at the Institute for Global Affairs. She joins us from Washington, DC. And Imtiaz is the executive director at the Center for Research and Security Studies. He's also joining us from Islamabad. A warm welcome to you all. I want to start with Maria first. Maria, on the face of this, the Awami Joint Action Committee criticisms of these legislative seats seems little bit unfair because this is constitutionally recognised. It's been in place for many, many years. So why this and why now?
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me to your show on a very important day. You have already said that this is a legal framework and a part of a constitution for many years, since 1974. And all of a sudden, this Awami Action Committee demands increased from 3 rupees electricity unit to 1,000 rupees 20 kg flour to this 12 seats of refugees. So the concern, it was a major concern for the government of Azad Kashmir as well, because when these constitutional frameworks are being challenged on the roads and in the .com era where we are living, that is very easy to instigate mobs against the government. So, for the last few days, what we were being witnessing actually on the social media, that was a huge campaign was being going on against the political parties of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, where these leaders were actually instigating mobs against, and they were challenging the whole legal framework of Azad Kashmir government. So the government and the local magistrates of all the districts, they put this sanction 144, which can be, which is a legal mechanism of a government to stop people to gather more than a certain
Right. Okay.
amount. So, yeah.
So let me go to Sahar Khan next. It feels like, once again, that there is heavy-handed tactics here to silence critics of either the government or the government of Azad Kashmir. Now, is that what we're witnessing?
I mean, I think so. To be honest, I think that what's happening in Azad Kashmir right now is indicative of a much larger trend. And I think it's no secret that there have been protests in the past where, there have been economic concerns. There's a great deal of inflation in Azad Kashmir. People of Kashmir, they want, more responsive government institutions. They want more representation. And I think in general, what we're seeing now is a reflection of that trend. I also think, the bigger issue is sort of Pakistan's dilemma itself, right? Pakistan is sort of back, I would say, in a hard place, which is, should it stick to the constitution of Azad Kashmir and these constitutional arrangements, or should it give in to populist demands? And I don't think that there's a simple answer to any of that, but I do think that that's a bigger dilemma that Pakistan has. And I think it also shows the reality on the ground of Kashmiris in Azad Kashmir, and of course other folks there as well, of, they have a demand of legitimacy, political representation, and of course institutions that are responsive to their demands.
Imtiaz, in 1948, in 1947 rather, when Indian refugees first came over, and then subsequent waves of Indian refugees coming in from Indian-administered Kashmir, they were welcomed with open arms. What's the sea change here? Why are they now being demonized?
Well, thank you, Imran. Number one, these refugees are no more refugees. They've been living in, most of them settled in mainland Pakistan. Secondly, these seats, which are stated to be reserved, 12 seats for the refugees, are usually used as an instruments of blackmail, of manipulation, for making or destroying the governments. So make or break instruments for the governments in Azad Kashmir. That's why the dominant majority of Kashmiris are demanding that these seats be abolished. And coincidentally, we have on our panel from a representative from the Pakistan Muslim League. So the Pakistan Muslim League has a vested interest in not abolishing those seats, because this is the major beneficiary of such context. And that's why, together with the PMLN, there are other vested interests, political vested interests, which has opposed the abolition of these seats, despite a promise that had been made to these parties, to the Awami Action Party back in September last year, when those negotiating with them, including a very senior minister from Pakistan, had promised that at least 6 of these refugee seats would be done away with very soon, as in the first phase. But now the big question is as to why, what has prompted the federal government in Islamabad to back down from that promise.
Imtiaz, I'm going to stop you there because I want to put your point to Maria. Maria, your reaction, please, to what Imtiaz has just said.
Thank you very much. Here, I won't agree with Mr. Imtiaz Sahab that PMLN is a beneficiary for this making and breaking of the governments from these 12 seats. It's not about the political party, it's about the refugees who have actually sacrificed in the past from 1947 to 65, then in the 80s and 90s, who got settled in Pakistan. And we have more than this 12 seats, we have actually a bigger cause, which we have been struggling. That is the right to self determination. The day we get this right to self determination, I think we cannot ignore these 3 million people. Where on the other side, in Indian Kashmir, we have been witnessing after abrogation of Article 370, Modi has made a major demographic changes in Indian occupied Kashmir by issuing the state subject for more than 2 million Indians. So, on the other side, when India has been offering and making it demographic changes, why we have to be focused on these 12 seats?
With all respect, Maria, but you are deflecting here. We're not talking about Indian-occupied Kashmir here. We're talking very specifically about Azad Kashmir. Now,
Yeah,
you've just said that these seats are important and they must be kept. Sahar Khan, is there any sympathy from you with that argument that these are very important seats, or do you have any sympathy with Imtiaz's argument they're now Pakistani citizens, they're not Indian refugees no more?
Right. I mean, I think that I'm tending to agree more with Imtiaz Saab on this, because I think, what this really reflects is a broader issue of political representation. And the protests that are happening now in Azad Kashmir, they do kind of challenge the narrative that Pakistan has constructed around Kashmir. I mean, there's no doubt, of course, we all know the history of Kashmir, right? Indian administered or Pakistan administered. And keeping that aside, I think the issue right now is that these protests reflect a bigger problem of governance and legitimacy. And, I don't feel either way about the 12 seats, like whether they should be there or not, because I think it is more reflective of a bigger problem of Azad Kashmir. And, and the demographic challenges are also really interesting as well, right? We're sort of seeing a global trend in this regard, where governments are trying to change the demographics of contested areas, trying to increase representation, increase voices, etc. But I think what Pakistan really has to ask itself is that it has had international messaging on Kashmir for so long, and that messaging, of course, has been about self-determination. So these protests in of themselves, are they part of that narrative, or are they not part of that narrative? And so I think in this case, I would probably side more with Imtiaz Saab.
I'm going to ask you, the three of you, the same question, but I'll begin with Imtiaz Gul. Imtiaz Gul, for many, many years, the government of Azad Kashmir was simply called a puppet government, didn't really have any power. It was there to prove a point. That Kashmir was independent, but it was never really independent. So what we're seeing now, is this a lashing out to try and become an actual, real, proper government?
I would think so, because the issue at heart is that these seats, 12 seats, and the mainland Kashmiris who put in all their resources, effort, time to contest and eventually get into the legislative assembly, they feel put at disadvantage once the formation or deformation of the government begins, because then what comes into play is these 12 seats. The majority of them side either with this party or with party B, and that party becomes the government. So that's why I think this is a very defining moment for the government of Pakistan, as Sahar also put it, if we are talking about self-determination for Kashmiris, then this small patch of Kashmir that Pakistan possesses should be allowed to act as independent, as a sovereign entity within Pakistan. This aberration of, I think, refugee seats has to go if you want
Imtiaz, I'm going to stop you there, because I do want to put these points to our other guests. Maria, do you think that this is a puppet government and this now is a movement to get actual, real power for Azad Kashmir?
I won't agree to this, actually, the word calling AJK government as a puppet government. We have been operating for several decades now. We have our own constitution. We have our own legislative assembly. We have seen the people struggling for the rights of their own people and for the other Kashmiris who are actually living abroad as well. So this is very unfair to call our government a puppet government after almost 80 years. And what I would suggest, like these constitutional framework, I think just recently, High Court of Azad Kashmir has also issued that this statement that this is we will work on that, but it is a legal framework which takes legislative members on board. And since Election Commission of Azad Kashmir has also announced the date for the next election on the 27th of July. And these 10 days, actually, they have announced that all the political parties' nominees must submit their papers to appear in this, whoever want to appear in the process.
We'll get into that a bit in a moment, but we are kind of running out of time. Maria, we are running out of time, and I want to come to Sahar. It's a simple question, the same one. Puppet government now looking for real independence?
Well, I think puppet government might be a little bit harsh. Maybe there's something lesser than puppet government. But I mean, in all seriousness, I do think that, these kinds of labels, puppet or not, I think is sort of beside the point. I think what we're really seeing is an evolution of Kashmiri politics. And we're really seeing the pressures of the demographics as well. I mean, we all know that Pakistan's population in general has a youth bulge. And we're sort of seeing that in Azad Kashmir now. And the young people in Kashmir, they want economic opportunities, they want employment opportunities, they want governance, better governance than currently exists in Azad Kashmir. So puppet or not is, in my view, kind of doesn't get to the core issue, which is the demand for better governance and the demand for accountability.
Maria, your title is a senior leader of the Pakistan Muslim League, Nawaz. Why are you not a member of the Kashmir Muslim League?
Sorry, Kashmir Muslim League.
Yeah, I mean, why not just become like what you just said? Really lean into the idea of being within Kashmir and doing politics within Kashmir. Why are you a member of the...
in Kashmir. So we have three major political parties: Pakistan People's Party, PMLN, and we have a Muslim conference. And last time, actually, PTI also has the huge participation. They formed a government as well. So I think as a free person, I have a choice actually to whatever the party I contest from or I appear from. So this is that's not I don't know what you actually trying to say.
Well, actually, I will tell you, Sahar. The reason I asked that question is because isn't there a danger here that Kashmiri nationalism actually starts to take over and then that becomes a problem for Pakistan?
Kashmiri nationalism it's not anything new. And I'm not sure why it would necessarily be a problem at this point. I mean, I think, there are a couple of things happening that are all sort of part of the Kashmiri nationalism, right? This desire for better governance, the desire for accountability. I mean, I think even this particular 12-seat issue, it's a legal matter. And even if it's solved, right? And even if Pakistan says that, this is a constitutional arrangement that needs to continue on, I don't think that it would, protests would continue to happen because even this particular, it's a smaller issue compared to some of the bigger things that are happening in Azad Kashmir. And so I think the problem has been the lack of wanting to solve this. And I think it's sort of in sort of Pakistan's narrative of Kashmir, the Kashmir issue in general, I think this also is a bit of a problem because what's happening in Azad Kashmir doesn't just indicate that this is between India and Pakistan. It's not really about the India-Pakistan rivalry. This is a governance issue. And I'm not sure that the Pakistani government has the appetite to solve it. But I think it reflects a bigger trend that Kashmiris just want better governance. They want to be heard and they want autonomy. So that in of itself is part of Kashmiri nationalism. So that's always existed. I don't think that that's anything new.
Is it heavy-handed tactics, Imtiaz, by prescribing, labelling the Joint Awami Action Committee as a terrorist organization? It seems a very quick labelling given, these only been a few protests, right?
I think this move is marked by confusion, by ambiguity. The Azad Kashmir Prime Minister Faisal Rathore has just a couple of hours ago issued an appeal to the Awami Action Party to come back for negotiations. So I think that was a premature, not really well thought through move, which has now gotten this government as well as the Islamabad authorities trapped, because they were labeling them as Indian agents, as terrorists, anti-state, and now they're again being urged to come back for negotiations. And the issue would be, after killing of so many people, what does the government basically offer on the table to mitigate the hard feelings, the feelings of deprivation, of being marginalized? So it's a big task. They have just, through mismanaging, manhandling of big crowds and protesters, the government has created yet another problem for itself.
Maria, when we are talking about the Joint Awami Action Committee, are they useful when it comes to inter-Kashmiri dialogue? Because they seem to be using violent tactics, and that doesn't seem to be helpful.
Okay, now as a citizen of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, I think I must admit that the government, both the governments, PTI government, PMLN government party, Pakistan People's Party, all these political parties have invited Jammu and Kashmir Awami Action Committee on table several times. And in past, since 2023, now is the 2026, all the problems, everything, mismanagement of a governors, was sorted out actually through a dialogue. So that's the first time actually the crowds and the call was mishandled by a government, just because there was reasons for that. Through a social media, there were several IDs who were actually calling protesters and mobs against the government to attack government properties and even assembly. So that's why the government imposed section 144 just to control that crowd. So it's not about only one party. I think all the political parties have tried their best in Azad Jammu and Kashmir.
Sahar, there is a case study here, right? And let's have I'll just quickly explain what my question is going to be, because Jammu and Kashmir has been divided by the Indian government. They've been very successful at that. They've cracked down. Is there a danger that what we're seeing right now in Azad Kashmir, Pakistan-administered Kashmir, is that same scenario, that eventually it'll be divide and rule?
I think so. And I think that this is a dangerous path because, the labeling of any group as a terrorist organization, it sets in motion certain legal obligations and certain police, or I would say law enforcement mechanisms, which in of itself, by their nature, are designed to curb dissent and, arrest people without evidence, to, basically tilt the balance of, national security and civil liberties in favor of national security. And this makes me very nervous for everything that's happening in Azad Kashmir. We have seen this in Indian-administered Jammu and Kashmir, where the police are very, very heavy-handed. That has resulted in a lot of injustices in terms of, pellet guns, in terms of kidnappings, arsons, all sorts of, nefarious activities. And it saddens me to see that this might be the trajectory in Azad Kashmir. I also think that it's, again, somewhat unnecessary. These are labeling, the Joint Awami Action Committee as a terrorist organization is, in my view, completely premature. And it does not get, again, to the heart of the issue or to the demands of the people in Azad Kashmir.
Imtiaz, do you share the same fears? What's your opinion on all of this?
Well, I think the advocacy that Pakistan has made all these decades for Kashmir seems to be now playing out in Azad Kashmir. And that's a tragic, I think, trajectory that we are seeing right now, that all these years we talked about the self-determination for the Kashmiris, but now with this violent reaction, with the violent handling of the crowds and the protesters, we have simply created the same conditions that we had been complaining about as far as the Indian Kashmir is concerned. So one would hope that better sense prevails and that the government authorities, they step back and somehow bait the Awami Action Party once again into the talks and makes promises that it can eventually fulfill, rather than hogwashing them after some time.
Maria, isn't the real problem here not the Joint Awami Action Committee, but the fact that Kashmir is still a question rather than a state? I mean, surely your efforts are better served trying to get Azad Kashmir truly independent.
I will come to your point. First, I want to mention one point which Sahar has just recently mentioned. There is a very unfair comparison of Azad Jammu and Kashmir and Indian occupied Kashmir, because India has imposed draconian laws on Kashmiris. But on this part of Azad Kashmir, constitution has never imposed any single draconian laws on their own people, like TADA, POTA, Armed Force Power Safety Act, which gives impunity to their forces to kill anywhere, any time. And Azad Kashmir has its complete constitution, which is in a favor of its own people, which gives the safety, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and freedom of assembly. But these are the governance problem. Since that this Awami Action Committee has started its demands for the better governance. So yes, coming to you, Imran, I believe, as you have already used so many harsh words for this state, being a citizen of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, I proudly say that this confidence is coming from the state where we actually opened our eyes freely, we moved freely, we lived freely, and we breathe freely. So we can't just, for my great grandparents, they migrated from the other part of Kashmir and they came on this part of Kashmir. For them, it was a Pakistan, because they left that Kashmir. They left everything in Srinagar and Punch city. So coming to this part, and just, it would be very unfair to my great grandparents if I would say this is a puppet government, or I won't call it a something else. So it's very unfair on the for the families who have actually left everything and came to this part of Kashmir and given everything,
Maria,
all their efforts, energy,
Maria,
time
I'm going to stop you there. I'm going to stop you there because we have run out of time, but I am going to say my question was designed to get your response. So thank you so much. I want to thank Maria, Iqbal, Tarana, Sahar Khan and Imtiaz Gul. And thank you too for watching. You can see the programme again anytime by visiting our website, aljazeera.com. And for further discussion, go to our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. And you can also join the conversation on X. Our handle is @AJ Inside Story. For now, that's it from me, Imran Khan, and all the team here. Al Jazeera's coverage continues in a moment. Stay tuned.